Good afternoon, attendees. Welcome to the Osteoporosis and Fall Prevention Festival organized by SATA Health. I'm Dalila, your host for today. Let's welcome our respected speaker, Ms Amanda Wong, a senior podiatrist from National Healthcare Group Polyclinics, who will be sharing footwear and falls prevention. Ms Amanda Wong graduated from La Trobe University with a bachelor's in health sciences and master of pediatric practice. Upon graduation, Amanda started working in an acute hospital where she was able to gain clinical experience from both acute and chronic cases. Take note that you're only able to ask questions during the Q&A session at the end of the talk, either through the chat box, Q&A chat box, or you can raise your hand so that we can unmute you. Now, I'll pass the time to Ms. Amanda Wong.
Hi, thank you for the introduction. Just let me share my screen. Okay. Okay, hi. So yeah, once again, thank you for the introduction. So my name is Amanda. I'm actually one of the podiatrists currently working in the National Healthcare Group Polyclinics. So it's my pleasure today to be able to share with you a talk on footwear and actually falls prevention. So this is just some of the things that I will actually be going through today. So firstly, like what does a podiatrist do? Why are my feet important? What is a fall? Importance of footwear, 5 features of good footwear, some fitting consideration of footwear for seniors, and some examples of appropriate footwear. So I usually get this question a lot, which is actually what does a podiatrist do? So podiatrists are actually allied healthcare professionals who deal with the treatment and management of foot conditions. So we treat people from all walks of life. And over here in NHGP, actually, the majority of our patients are 60 years old and above. So aside from managing our patients' active feet issues, we also conduct footwear and foot care education for them as well. So as to why your feet is actually important, the feet itself actually makes up 25% of the bones in the body. It has 26 bones, 33 joints, and more than 300 soft tissue structure, which includes muscles, ligaments, and tendons. It has to endure 3 to 5 times your body weight when you're walking and 5 to 7 times body weight when you're running. So that is why you need to take good care of your feet. So moving on into what is actually a fall. So a fall actually means to come to rest unintentionally on the ground from causes other than sustaining a violent blow, loss of consciousness, or sudden onset of paralysis like stroke or seizure. So recurrent falls are actually defined as more than 2 falls in a year and are usually due to multiple factors. So I just have a little table here, like some picture. Basically, what it means is that the older someone gets, the risk of falling actually gets higher and it gets more frequent. So like it says here, age 65 plus, 1 out of 3 people actually fall each year. 72 onwards, each person, 1% actually fall every 2 years, and 80 plus, the person can be expected to fall every year. And one thing that I actually noticed, especially for my patients as well, is that many of them are actually silent fallers. So what it means is that they actually don't report the fall or seek medical assistance unless they are injured or if they are feeling pain, kind of things like that. Then they will start to actually seek help from there. So in regards to why a person will actually fall, there are actually a lot of contributing factors. So the factors that I will be just presenting a little bit here, like in this slide, is actually mainly more towards like from the podiatry point of view, that means from the feet. So in order to do that, we have to understand what actually happens to the feet when, in normal aging. So in aging feet, actually, if you can actually realize as well, there's actually a photo of it at the top over here, is that the feet actually loses the natural padding from the heel, which is over here, and also at the ball of the foot as well is over here. So what it means is that the feet actually becomes more and more bony. So usually when this happens, if the kind of shoes that you're wearing is not very cushioning, or if example, if you are barefooted at home and you do a lot of household chores, you do a lot of cooking, etc. What happens is they can feel a lot of like aching, soreness, especially across the forefoot, the ball of the foot, or even the heel area as well. So the arches actually become flatter and the joints become less flexible. And as we age, the way we walk and stand will change as well. So we end up walking and standing with a little wider base of gait. So think of it more of like a triangle. So a triangle has a broad base, and then like we go the head above. So what happens is that as we age, because our eyesight deteriorate, our hearing deteriorate, and things like that, we end up having to compensate in a way by ensuring that we have a wider base of it just to be more stable. And our feet becomes flatter because with a wider surface area contacting to the ground, is said to actually help us to grip the ground better. And you'll realize that sometimes when you walk, the toes will end up gripping as well, so like having a clog kind of things to get a better grip onto the floor. So these are some of the things that actually happen when your feet ages like as we age along the way. And then on top of that, a lot of seniors actually have impaired muscular strength and balance, which means that the muscle strength not as strong as it used to be, balance also not as good as it used to be. And a lot of people who actually fell and injured themselves often were found wearing inappropriate shoes. And so unsafe footwear can actually cause loss of balance and bad gait. That means the way you walk is not very good. So now it leads me into this slide, which is like, what's wrong with my shoes? So usually when I talk, I'll tell my patients, let's talk about your shoes. They always ask me, what happened to my shoes? So usually whenever we talk about footwear, we will try to understand actually the lifestyle of the patient. Like, we can have a very active person, or we can have a senior who's a little bit more sedentary that just goes to the things like that. And the kind of recommendation that we will do after that will also have to be dependent on the lifestyle of the patient. But the first thing that I always like to find out, of course, one of the main thing is actually what is how do they come to the decision, or what kind of shoes they actually want to buy. So a lot of time, all of us actually have our own perception of what we think is important in our shoes. So some people will feel that, oh, I want it to be very light. I want it to be open toe because I don't like to wear covered shoes. It's very hot. But some people will say, oh, I want it to be like a sports shoe. I want it to be very supportive, things like that. Some may even say, I want it to be good looking. I want it to be sharp. I want it to look very sleek. So we have all this kind of like, each individual will have their own perception. Then of course, when we talk a bit more towards the younger people, of course, sometimes it can be media and society as well. What you see on social media, what you see on the television, what is being advertised. But a lot of our seniors here actually is really they hear from their friends and their family members. So they will tell me things like, oh, my neighbor wear this shoe, is very good. My son and my daughters bought this for me, very expensive one, things like that. Yeah, so that's usually how they actually decide on their shoes. So now I'll be going through about why like what is a good pair of shoes supposed to do. Like when you wear shoe, what is it supposed to provide for you? What it's supposed to do for you? And what are some of the things that it's supposed to do? So first key point would be stability. So a good pair of shoe is actually able to provide you stability whenever you're walking. So if you wear the proper shoe, it actually encourages correct foot function to provide you with a smooth and steady walking cycle. And when we talk about stability of the shoe, we actually talk about the midsole portion over here. So if you can't see my screen, my what I'm doing here, you can actually look at the picture. It's the one with the red box. Yeah, the picture where the red box is actually focusing on. That is known as the midsole portion of the shoe, or also known as a shank. So sometimes what happens for certain kind of shoes, especially for sport shoes, you will end up having something called either a dual or a tri-density support block. So what it actually means is that one part of the shoe, as you can see from the first picture, the black area where they kind of draw out, that is made from a firmer material as compared to the rest of the shoe. And in a real life sport shoes, when you see it, like example for the middle picture, you see that there is actually a white color part and there's actually a gray color part. So what it means is that when you take your hand and when you press upon it, you press on it, right? Can't really see. You press on it, it will be much softer as compared to if you press onto the harder part, which is actually much more firmer. Yeah. So if you ever happen to see a sport shoe and things like that with different color, that is what it's supposed to do. Supposedly, the firmer material is supposed to provide your feet with more stability to keep it more stable. Yeah. So sometimes it could be a difference in material. That means you might see some plastic inside as well, also different color, things like that, but they all act the same way. So secondly, even pressure distribution. So footwear that actually supports you well can effectively change the pressure distribution within the foot. So, and this is especially important if the patient actually have diabetes. So I mean, like as you can see from the picture here, this is a foot when you stand, it's actually like a pressure scanner. So you can see those red color areas and you can see the much cooler colors, which is blue. So red color means areas of high pressure, whereas blue color means like not so much pressure, lesser pressure. So this person just by standing, most of the pressure is actually on the ball of the foot and on the heel. So if let's say this particular person were to continue to wear a pair of shoes like high heel shoes, which actually also put the pressure mainly on the forefoot and on the heel area, in the long run, especially if the person has diabetes and with impaired sensation and things like that, it can cause a lot of like callus formation, hard skin, and cause you to have like soreness on the ball of the foot, on the heel area. It can also even lead to ulceration. So that's the reason why with proper shoes, it can actually help you to effectively change the pressure distribution. So the third key point is actually to incorporate insoles. Not every patient, not every person actually requires to have insoles, but along the way, sometimes you may want to add it into the shoes as you go along. So it's always good to have the option to be able to do it. So insoles can actually help to enhance the foot function and improve stability. It can help to provide cushioning as well, and help to offload areas of pressure. So it doesn't necessarily mean only like our customized insoles or what. It could even just be something that's off the shelf, something that you've been using already. So it's a good pair of shoes should be able to accommodate the insoles inside. Fourth key point, of course, is that footwear that fits well overall should help with the stability and also minimize irritation to the feet. So like the first one, if you have known allergy to some of the materials that is made in the shoes, that's used in the shoe, then of course you don't use it. Then if let's say the shoe doesn't fit well, that means if it's too short, you can end up having corns, calluses at this area. If it's not cushioning enough, you can also end up having calluses here. And if there's any stitching that's inside the shoe, because nowadays, the shoes are actually stitched on, and sometimes the stitching inside can be very rough. And as this is especially important for seniors, who have very thin and frail skin. You don't really want it rubbing against the skin because that will cause like redness and blisters. The skin can break and then you can end up causing like an ulcer and things like that, which is not what we want. Okay, so now it moves on to the 5 features of good footwear. So what does it mean? Now, usually when I talk to patients about shoes after we go through everything, then they will ask me, what brand do I buy? Like where do I go and buy my shoe? Which brands are good? Now, the thing is for podiatry, we do not recommend any brands. So you will not hear me saying like, oh, you must only buy this brand, you cannot buy that brand, or you only buy this model, things like that. No, we go by features of the shoe. Now that is because every individual is different. Every pair of feet that comes in is all different as well. And everybody have different preference as well. So we always go by features of the shoes. So these are the features of the shoes. Firstly, like what we mentioned earlier, the rigid shank, which is the portion over here. So it helps, like it has already been said, like what I said just now, correct the function, help with pressure distribution, help you to be more stable as well. So how do you actually check for stability at this part over here? You take the shoe and you attempt to twist the shoe. So a bit like trying to twist, like when you're trying to dry up like trying to wring out the water in a cloth counting when you're trying to twist it like that. So in a good pair of shoe, as you do it, it shouldn't be able to twist it so easily. If the thing can move very easily, that means this part here is not like it's very flexible lah. So if it's too flexible, you can actually twist your foot and fall as well also. The next way, the only flexibility that we want is actually over here at the forefoot area, which is what you can see from the picture over here. So if let's say when you try to flex the shoe and it goes all the way until the middle portion over here, that means it is too soft, too flexible already. So that's not what we want. A good pair of shoes will only flex where your toe joints are. So that is where we want the movement to be, not so much at the middle portion. So of course, with wear and tear over time, the shoe will definitely become more seasoned and be softer. Then when it's too flexible, you will have to change it from there. So secondly, it's actually a firm heel counter. So a heel counter is actually designed to help you to grip the heel to prevent it from slipping out of the shoe. So when it's flimsy, the way you walk will also be very unstable. Or if your shoes actually lack the heel counter, you will also cause instability when you're walking. So how do you check? You just take the shoe and then you try to push it down. If the whole thing can collapse, that means yeah, it's too flimsy already. Like what the picture shows here. If the whole thing can collapse in, that's not very good. So when we talk about fastening mechanism, basically, whenever we walk inside a pair of shoes, our feet definitely have a bit of forward and backward movement. Especially if your shoes is way too big, you will tend to slip and slide a lot more inside. So all this kind of fastening mechanism like buckle, laces, and Velcro, it helps to hold the feet down so that it doesn't move so much. Because when you move a lot, it can cause you to have blisters, it can cause you to be unstable as well, it cause you to have pain, which will also then affect the way you walk. So, and by right, if you buy shoes, you shouldn't even be buying it like the exact size. It should usually have a little bit of space at the front. So if let's say with that little bit of space, what happens is that if you don't have the thing to help to secure, your feet will end up sliding a lot inside. So that's the reason why usually for seniors, we will recommend Velcro. Even for those like sports shoe kind, some of them actually do come with Velcro as well also. So we will usually recommend that, or if not, they can get those like prefix elastic laces, things like that to help with it. So toe box, okay. So I think all of us know that we should wear shoes that is not too narrow. It has to be broader and things like this. And every patient come in always tell me, like, oh, I know my shoe very broad, very nice, very good one. Yeah. But the thing with, especially when you look at seniors' feet, right, they don't really just have like all straight toes. Sometimes they have bunions. They can also have clog toes as well. So what happens is that a lot of time we notice about the width, but we don't really notice about the depth of the shoes. So like depth of the shoes is like something that is like how deep, especially at the front portion there. So some shoes actually are a bit shallower, some shoes are deeper, depending on. And a lot of time what happen is that in order to, if you find a pair of shoes that is maybe at your size, maybe let's say you're a size 6, maybe for size 6 the width is too narrow for you. A lot of times people end up going above to a size 7 or even to a size 8 just to be able to accommodate the width. But when that happens, it means that the length of the shoe also increases as well. So when you wear a pair of shoes that's too long, you can end up tripping and falling very easily, which is not something that we want. So what happens is that you need to find a pair of shoes that by default the design is rounder. Certain kind of shoes gives you the option of choosing broader as well. So that means you can be a size 6, but then instead of a double 2E, you can get up to a 4E kind of fitting like that. But generally, these are usually found in sports shoes. Or maybe shoes that are made naturally broader, maybe a bit more like a diabetic shoe kind of thing like that. Yeah. So especially if the senior have things like bunion or the toes that they kind of claw up together or overlapping toes, those kind, right? Where they will rub against at the top. You need to ensure that actually the depth of the shoe is deep enough and the material is softer instead of like let's say a leather or what, because when it rubs it will be more painful. So they'll do better with something like fabric, something that's a bit more softer. So lastly, of course, removable insoles. So this allows you to actually change the original shoe liner of the shoe into the insoles that you want. So all you have to do is make sure that this piece inside can actually be removed. So once it removed already, you can put in the insoles that you want to put. So we don't recommend, say, stacking it on top of the original shoe liner that's over there. Why? Because every shoe actually has a limited amount of depth that's inside. So that means how much things like what can actually fit inside. So you have to think about it. The normal shoe liner already already take up a certain space. If you add on your own insoles on top of it, and if you were to put your feet inside, especially if you have very flashy feet, you're not going to feel very comfortable inside. So that's why it's always good to check, make sure that the shoes actually have removable insoles, so that in the event if you want to change the insole, you can. And it doesn't mean that all sports shoes will have it. Some sports shoes don't, so you have to check for it. So it depends on the brand and the model once again. Okay, so moving on, some fitting considerations of footwear for seniors. Now, firstly, of course, buy shoes in the later part of the day. Now, our feet tend to swell a little, especially towards the evening time. So if you buy shoes in the morning, the shoe may fit you well, but then towards the evening when you wear it, you realize that, oh, actually it feels very, very tight. So for seniors or for people where their feet tend to swell up by a lot, my recommendation is that you may need to get shoes that can be adjusted. So like Velcro straps, that will be easier for you. So that, as it swells, you're able to loosen it, and then you're able to wear it, but you just have to tighten it a little bit. Yeah. Then of course, try on the footwear while standing, and also with the socks. If you have the preference to wear socks, or if the shoe is required to be worn with socks. So because some of my patients, they like to wear socks with their sandals. So if you, let's say, even if you're buying a pair of sandals and if your habit is to wear a pair of socks with it, then please do bring along your socks when you go and try your sandals as well. So yeah, and please try it while you're standing, because when you're standing with your body weight, all the soft tissue in your feet will actually get squashed, so your feet actually gets broader. So don't just wear shoes and then just like wiggle, move it like this and say, actually I think it fits well. Doesn't. Okay. So ensure that the footwear size is correct, because if it's too big, like I said, the foot can slip and slide inside, and it will also increase the risk of falling. And if it's too tight, it's actually very painful. And so that will also hinder the walking also, and then that will also increase the risk of falling. So ensure one thumb width from longest toe to footwear. Now, all of us, our feet are different. Some of us, our longest toe may be our second or our third. Some of us may be the first. So regardless of whichever it is, just from the longest toe, one thumb width down from the longest toe. All right. If you wear shoes that is too tight, that is not that is too short, what happens is that your toes in the long run can claw up and cause you to have a lot of calluses, especially at the tips of the toe area. That will not be too comfortable. Of course, use slip-resistant footwear for both outdoor and home use. So it's very important. Then make sure that the shoes is not too heavy, as seniors can have trouble lifting their feet up. So what happens is that they tend to shuffle in their shoes because they cannot walk as per normal because the shoes is too heavy, and that can cause them to fall. So avoid those thick, chunky soles and choose the thinner soles, which allows them to feel the sensation as they walk. So like this kind, that's a big no-no. As you can see, it's too thick already. You won't be able to feel the ground. And if let's say you're walking on an uneven surface, you won't be able to feel much with this. Yeah, so you will end up like falling. You can twist your ankle and fall. So something that's like more normal, a bit thinner will be okay. Of course, avoid wearing high heels, not very good. Good to say that I don't really see a lot of my senior patients wearing high heels, although sometimes I still do see them. But yeah, so just try not to wear it. Then of course, try on both sides of the footwear and walk around in it while at the shoe store. Shoes need to fit well and feel comfortable when you're walking around. I don't mean walk 3 steps and then go back and sit down. I just mean that you really have to walk around the shoe shop. And then after that, when you remove the shoe, you also just have to make sure and check, like make sure, especially at the side of the toe, or if you have a bunion, things like that, make sure that there is actually no friction, there's no redness, no blister forming, kind of things like that. And avoid wearing slippers, as it will also negatively affect the gait and increase the risk of falling. Now, why is that so? So a lot of my patients actually come in with this kind of shoes. I mean, with our climate and because of the ease of wearing, it's not surprising. However, this kind of shoes are not really safe for them. Number one, there's actually really no fastening to the feet, especially for this one here, the tongs. You're literally using your first and second toe to gut the shoe as you walk. The second one, yes, when you slip in, but it's just a strap across. Thirdly, of course, yes, this one it's broad, it's covered, so to a certain extent there's some protection. There's also a huge strap, but a lot of time for people wearing these shoes can be a bit too big. So what happens is that because the shoe is too big, it causes instability as well also. But one thing in common across for all this, whenever you wear this kind of shoes, is that your toes will actually end up gripping, so grip like that, just in order to hold on to the shoe and to bring the shoe along with you with every single step that you walk. Now, if let's say you're someone where the muscle strength is not very strong, and you know your muscle will get fatigued easily, on top of that, your body still have to utilize even more strength to have to bring your shoes along with you as you walk. So that is one of the reasons why we don't encourage our seniors to wear this kind of shoes. And on top of that, also because it's not very stable and it's not supportive enough. So usually when we talk about like footwear, we will see if let's say some of the seniors, they really don't like to wear covered shoes, then usually I'll encourage them to try off the pair of sports sandals first. The good thing about sports sandals is open toe. It is adjustable. So that means it's all Velcro strap. And at the same time, there is actually like a strap across close the ankle there, a strap across the heel. And at the forefoot area, it allows you to adjust to so that you can, accommodate if you have a broader kind of forefoot, kind of things like that. Of course, it's not as stable as a pair of sport shoes, but this compared to the slipper, this is much better. So usually for patients, if they are more active, they like to go for brisk walking, you encourage them definitely must wear a good pair of sport shoes, one that is meant for walking so that it can support the feet better. Then in terms of the fastening, you can choose either Velcro, sometimes can be also like laces, but can be those elastic kind also. Outdoor use, usually patients will usually opt for something like this, more for the females. So like a Mary Jane style shoes with a Velcro. So this is actually more of like a like for elderly diabetic shoe kind of thing. So the material is very soft. As you can see, it's actually very deep as well. And in terms of the design, it's actually much rounder as well also, so not narrow. Yeah, so usually for patients, if they are looking for if they're still working, and their uniform requires them to wear with a black kind of shoes, they can go for something like this. So like for this one over here, this kind of shoes are actually not really meant for like heavy duty walking. They're usually meant for more for like how to say, like patients when they need to transfer from maybe the car to the wheelchair to the chair, etc. So just for a few walkings, few steps here and there. And also if the skin is very, very frail, very thin. So all these are usually made from cloth fabric materials. And at the same time also Velcro so that it can accommodate any swelling. Some patients may also choose to use this as home footwear, so that means home shoes. But honestly, a lot of patients, I don't really see this being done very commonly here in Singapore. Yeah, mainly people either go barefooted or they will wear a slipper at home. Yeah, but if not, these are some of the things that they can consider as well. Also. Okay, so in conclusion, fall is actually a very vicious cycle. So everyone that that I meet, all my patients, whenever they have a fall, definitely they will have a fear of falling after that. And then they will tell you things, oh, I don't go for my walks now. I don't like to do all these kind of things because I'm scared I'll fall. And because of that, you see, decrease in activity. Then on top of that, after reduction in muscle strength and balance, which will then lead to decrease in function. And because of all this, their risk of falling is much higher again. So for our side, having a good pair of shoes really will help in like the stability, helping them to maintain the kind of lifestyle that they want. Like if they like to go brisk walking, they like to go out with their friends, go out with their families for a bit of exercise, walking here and there. A good pair of shoes really will help in a long way. So yeah, I know I've said a lot of things today. So if there's one thing that you need to remember, it's this one. So these are just the features of the shoes that you need to look out for really. This will really help you just take into consideration the next time you want to buy shoes, yeah, for yourself or for your family members also. So with that, thank you. All right, so I will be taking some questions now. Let me see. Okay. Okay, so I've got quite a few questions already. Okay. My big toe is going to overlap the second toes. May I know what kind of shoes should I wear now? So honestly for that, we will actually recommend something that is much more like broader and of course with a softer kind of material. So that means like cloth kind of material, that will be much better. Definitely must be broader, but in the long run, it will be better if you see a doctor just to assess and see whether or not you will actually benefit from a referral to orthopedics as well, if that is the way that you want to go forward. But if not, our recommendation is always broader footwear, deeper footwear also. Wear slippers at home, okay. Slip resistant slippers will be good. Am I right? Your shoes must be harder. Oh, I think you're talking about the heel counter. So yes, the heel counter, which was what I mentioned earlier, have to be a bit a bit more firmer. Like it shouldn't be too flimsy. Like once you press on it, the whole thing will collapse down. Yeah. So yes. How do we identify patients who would require to be referred to a podiatrist? Can we go to polyclinic on our own and request to see a podiatrist? Okay. So for the first part of the question, usually for podiatrists, it depends on what the patient wants. Because for podiatrists, of course, just deal with shoes. We also deal with active feet issues. If the patient would like to know more about their feet or footwear, things like that, yes, they can be referred to a podiatrist. Then we can talk to them from there. As for the polyclinic, you have to see a doctor first, and the doctor will assess before they will then refer you over to a podiatrist if they feel that podiatrist can help you with. We do not take walk-ins. We do not take referrals from GPs. So yeah. I have plantar fasciitis and with high arch. What type of shoes is suitable for me? Okay, I think if you currently have an existing issue, you might do well to see a doctor and maybe get a referral to see a podiatrist. Then from there on, at least after we assess your foot structure, everything like that, then we'll be able to actually help you from there and to direct you from there, because this is too big, unfortunately. But generally, of course, if you really want to know what kind of shoes is the best, sport shoes is always the best. It's the most supportive and cushioning. But of course, like I said, it's not only just about what's best, but what is most suitable for your lifestyle as well. So for this question, I would suggest see a doctor, get a referral to a podiatrist if the doctor say needed. Can please show last slide again? Sure, can. Just give me a moment. Let me backtrack. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Shown is on the screen. Is memory foam shoes good for legs? Memory foam shoes are actually good for cushioning. So that means like I said about how the fat pads under the feet actually gets a bit thinner. If you wear memory foam shoes, you will feel more cushioned. So you feel, because it's softer, you'll feel much better. But in the long run, if you're going to use it for heavy duty walking, if you're going to use it for like work where if you stand the whole day kind of things, you might feel your legs to become very quite sore and aching, because usually memory foam shoes don't provide a lot of support for the feet. So if that's the case, I would usually also recommend a pair of sport shoes, because sport shoes itself, the amount of cushioning and amount of support is always the best. Yeah. But if just for like day to day, not really walking a lot, memory foam shoes for most people actually they actually most people take it quite okay. Yeah. Should we always wear socks when we are wearing all kinds of covered shoes? Um, it depends. Definitely for covered shoes, if you're wearing for like sport shoes, yes. Slip-ons, flats, not many people will do it, and especially for flats, if your flats is actually not too um if it's too tight, you wear socks, it can actually end up feeling even more tight. So this is actually a personal preference thing, but for sport shoe, covered shoes, yes, I'll recommend that you do wear socks. If there are bunions on the feet, what type of shoes would be suitable? So like I said, shoes that are rounded, so definitely rounder rather than narrower, and something that's deeper. Yeah. If you prefer open toe shoes, maybe you can buy those kind of sandals that is also adjustable in front to be able to accommodate it. My left heel tends to be painful. Why? I think for this question, unfortunately, you also have to see your doctor to get a referral so that we can assess you in person just to find out why also. Most of the time, it is because of muscle tightness, but it's good to be assessed just to make sure that there's nothing wrong inside as well. Also, so I think for this question, yeah, it's better for you to consult a doctor and then a podiatrist face to face, so that we can actually do more examination for you. Is sole made from memory foam good for seniors who can't balance well when walking? Okay, so if you're talking about the shoe liner, the insoles inside, right? If it's the memory foam, they will actually feel more for cushioning rather than for balance. If let's say balance, uh, you need to make sure that the shoes is stable and that it's not thick and not those kind of rocky style. Because if their balance is really not good and if the shoes is rocking, then it will be quite yeah, definitely they will not be able to balance well. But for memory foam, they will in a short run, they will feel that it will be softer. They will actually feel a bit more comfortable. But like I said, if you walk for long, your muscles will start to feel fatigued. How do we assess the recording of this webinar? I think later maybe one of the hosts can actually help with this question. Does exercise improve bunions? Any YouTube link for such exercises? Unfortunately, no. Bunions are mostly it's mostly because of a bone issue. It's a bony problem. So whatever that is there is already there. Of course, we can try to slow down the progression, or I mean slow down the deterioration if you change to a broader pair of shoes, if you don't wear shoes that presses on it. But if the bunion is already quite advanced, then unfortunately no. The only way to treat a bunion is by surgery actually. So you have to see your doctor so that they can assess you further. Why shoes become hard and stiff after not wearing for a while? Honestly, I also have no idea. I think it's because of the glue, I think, and the material, but because as we use it, it becomes a bit more seasoned. I would expect that. So sorry if I can't give you a good answer to that. Hi, do you say sport shoes are the best? I missed it. Well, in terms of the kind of shoes that we have available, if you're looking for a pair of shoes for like really like work and stuff like that, if the sport shoes fits you well, yeah, in terms of cushioning, in terms of support, it's definitely more superior than your sneakers or your sandals or your slippers. So yeah, it's the best among all those. Okay, there is a shop that I went to need to buy arches to lift up the center muscle of my feet, and it has to put inside my shoe. Is this wise to wear? I think you're talking about insoles. So if they sold you a pair of insoles, um and if the person told you say you need to wear, then I guess so. But it's a bit hard for me to explain this because to answer this question because I don't know if the insoles fit your feet or not. And um yeah, so if let's say you're really very unsure about it, or if let's say you feel that you don't feel comfortable with it, either you bring it back to the shop that you bought it from. If not, if you really want us to take a look, then you can consult a doctor, and then they will refer you over. Yeah. Can we wear a pair of shoe sandals for 10 years if it's still good? As in King brand which lasted me for 10 years. Okay, now a lot of times we actually end up throwing our shoes only when there's visible signs of wear and tear. That means when there's like a hole, or when the whole thing starts gaping. Usually we won't recommend so, especially if you start to experience foot pain. That means if you start to have aching in your feet when you're wearing the shoes. Because what happens is that with each step that we walk, the inside of the outsole, right, which is usually the one that provides you with the most support and cushioning, there will start to be actually microscopic wear and tear. So over many times, your shoes will start to get worn out as well also. So the support, the cushioning will not be as good as what it used to be. So yeah, as to if let's say one of you want to ask me how often should we change the shoes, it also depends on what you use the shoes for. But generally for sports shoes, if you are using it for like just you're not, let's say, like those triathlete runners, you're not talking like 20 kilometers kind of run, you can change your sports shoe like maybe once every 1 to 2 years kind of thing like that. If you are seasoned like brisk walking like 3 times a week kind of thing like that. Yeah. How reliable are those food care stores at the mall in their recommendations? Unfortunately, I can't really comment on that. So sorry about this. Yeah. So the pretty plastic jelly shoes are not good. What's pretty plastic jelly shoes? I guess not. Okay, I do lots of walking. Okay, to buy a sport shoe instead. Recently, I tripped on my toes and had a bad fall. Yes, if you do a lot of walking, it's good to actually wear a pair of sports shoes. Sports shoes is actually not just meant for sports. Sports shoes is something that, if you are a very active person in general, even for your day to day, like you maybe you have to fetch grandchildren, you go walking, go shopping, kind of things like that. That means you're on your feet a lot. Sports shoes is actually okay. Yeah. Okay. Um, yeah. Okay. So it's better to get a shoe later in part of the day, correct? Um, if let's say if you realize that your feet actually tends to swell a little bit more than usual, it's better to get those where that it can actually be adjusted. So that means that either Velcro or you may need to do up your laces a bit tighter in the morning. That as you go towards the at the end of the day, you might need to loosen it up from there. Yeah. So that could help with the being loose in the morning. Does massaging bunion area helps as the muscles around the area is always very tight? Um, I guess if you're trying to help the muscles, but if you're trying to improve the bunion, then unfortunately it's not really going to help with it. Yeah. Any recommendation for walking sport shoes in terms of brands and shops? Um, it really depends on your feet. Like if you have very broad foot and kind of things like that, um, generally New Balance tend to be much broader in terms of the cutting of the shoes. But of course, that doesn't mean that it works well for everybody. You can, if you want, you can look at it. You can go inside the shoe. You can go inside the shoe shop. You can let them know what kind of shoes you're after. If you're after a walking pair of shoe or a running pair of shoe, things like that. Then, if you have broad feet, you can also let them know from there. Then they can at least advise you which models are suitable. Yeah. But if not, usually maybe the first area you can start with is New Balance. Okay, I think that's all the questions I have here. Let me check the other side. Thank you for being so attentive of your. Okay, so any more questions? Oh, is running shoes okay to wear for walking? Yes, because running and walking actually is the same direction. So you can use your running shoes for walking also. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. If let's say you are someone who walks and do a little bit of you do brisk walking and you do jogging, then it's better for you to get running shoes. But if you're a season just like I do brisk walking only, you can get a walking pair of shoes. Or if you use it for your day-to-day kind of thing, walking can already. All right. Okay, so any more questions? Thank you for being so attentive. One more here. Okay. Does rolling tennis ball under the feet help improve problem? What problem are we actually talking about? If you're asking for your arch kind of thing, like a bit of a massage, actually it's okay. It can actually help. It provides more of like a massage kind of feeling. It makes you feel a bit better, especially if your your plantar fascia at the bottom, at the sole of your feet is very tight. You can feel a bit more comfortable. Mm, okay. Um, is a sport shoe usually more expensive? It depends on the brand. It depends on the model. Um, Sometimes I guess if you find it during clearances, it can be quite cheap actually. So if you're not after the latest model, if you're not after a very flashy color, I think most of the time it's quite okay. And for how much if you use it, especially if you use it on a daily basis, I think it's quite okay lah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Oh, you're welcome. If I have pain in the heel, is there something wrong with the shoes? Um, could be, but like I said, because whenever there's an issue, we need to assess. If let's say when you come, it could just be because of muscle tightness. It could also be because your shoes don't fit you well. But all this only with when we do it face to face, then we'll be able to actually help you better from that. So it's a bit hard for me to answer this question. So sport shoe probably fits the requirements for some firm support, etc. Yeah, the support in terms of the support and cushioning definitely much better, more superior as compared to like your sneakers, your loafers, yeah, things like that. So yeah, definitely much better. Thanks for sharing. Oh, you're very welcome. Okay. Any more? So if that's all, then yeah, I'll pass it back to Dalila now. Thank you once again. I hope this has been informative for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Amanda Wong, for your sharing, and thank you, attendees, for attending the talk. We hope you have enjoyed the session, and we hope to see you soon in other webinars that we'll be organizing. If you have any other enquiries or questions regarding with what was shared earlier, feel free to drop us an email at mediacontact@sata.com.sg or call our hotline 6244-6688. Let me repeat, 6244-6688. Stay safe and healthy, everyone. Take care.